Welcome to Ferry the Greyhound. We're on the Isle of Skye in Scotland, and today, in part 4 of our series, we are going to be taking the ferry over to the Isle of Raasay. One of our favourite TV programmes is SAS Who Dares Wins, and this is filmed on the Isle of Raasay. The ferry goes from a place called SCONSER to Raasay. So we arrived at the ferry terminal and you just turn up, drive on, and you can buy a ticket when you get on the ferry. They go every hour. So we drove round onto the ferry. It didn't take very many vehicles, maybe 10 or 12, and it wasn't full up. And we got out and went up to the passenger deck. You could sit either inside or up on the top deck in the outside. I don't think Ferry really liked it inside because she started panting a lot and it was very rocky. So we went upstairs onto the deck. There were lots of strange noises on the ferry, lots of beeping and when it was reversing and things, and Ferry was very unsure. She kept looking around and was quite uncertain, but soon relaxed. It was only a very short crossing. It took just 15 minutes, so it wasn't very long for Ferry to be up on the ferry. It was quite windy and chilly up on the deck, so she was wearing her jackets to keep her nice and cosy. The scenery was beautiful. You could see the mainland of Skye. You could see that's the Old Man of Store over there in the background, and then Raasay. After 15 minutes we arrived and drove off the ferry. There was a big welcome to Raasay sign. We had a quick look at the map on the sign. You can't really get lost on Raasay because there's only one road that runs from the south to the north of the island. Ferry had a little sniff around all the fishing equipment. It smelled nice and fishy and she liked that smell. She had a good old sniff around. First thing we saw as we drove off from the ferry port was Raasay House, which is a big hotel, an outdoor activity centre. This is the map. So the road stops at Arnish there. It's one long road, single track road all the way up, but we did manage to take the wrong road, which was the little road that cut off to the right, and that was a dead end. So we soon discovered we couldn't go any further, but I'm pleased we went down there because at the dead end there were some highland cows, and I'd been wanting to see a highland cow the whole trip, and we saw this lovely one. So I'm really pleased we did get lost, if that's possible, on Raasay. And then we turned around and went back the other way, and then we knew we were on the right road. Just the one road which went all the way from one end of the island to the other. Very, very narrow. We didn't actually see many cars at all. I think we saw one the whole time, and it's about a 20-mile long island. So we were driving for about just under an hour to get to the end of the island and then back again. And there were lots of sheep on the road, but that was about all we saw. All the other cars that came over on the ferry seemed to just be going to the whiskey distillery or the little village right at the ferry port, because we didn't see any other cars. So I can't see where they all would have gone other than the whiskey distillery, which is like a tourist attraction. Or maybe they were residents who live in the village there and they'd gone over to the mainland to do their shopping. So after about a 40-minute drive, we reached Greyhound Castle ruins, which is really the only sort of touristy attraction on the island. So we saw that, we went down, walked up to it, and just as we were approaching it, we did see that you could walk down onto a little beach down there. There was a tiny fishing beach at the bottom, so we took a walk down there. It was a very pebbly beach, so Ferry stayed on the lead. We didn't see any other people as we were exploring the castle ruins and the beach. This way. We spotted a dead animal on the beach, and it turned out to be either a porpoise or it could have been a baby orca, because it did have a sort of black and white colouring to it, and the shape of the fin as well. Been eaten by seagulls, I think. Ferry was very interested in all the sheep that we saw. She even starts barking now when she sees sheep. So she is kept well on the lead, away from the sheep. From Greyhound you couldn't drive much further. There was only a few more miles until you reached the end of the road, Arnish. And at Arnish there was some little cottages, and there was like an honesty box with homemade gifts inside it, which we purchased a couple of things from there. Really nice seaweed soap, some bath crystals and eggs and things like that, and homemade cards which had been painted with watercolour paints. Then we headed back the way we came. Whilst we were waiting for the ferry, we walked up the hill to look at the funny mermaid statue. And you can hear how out of breath I am just from walking up a small hill. Ferry found some more fishy things to smell while we were waiting for the ferry to come in. It was quite chilly in the wind, so Ferry put her warm padded jacket on with her fur collar to keep her nice and warm while she was waiting for the ferry. Good girl. You okay? Ferry seemed much more settled on the return journey on the ferry now that she knew what to expect. Ferry did seem to get a bit fed up of standing up, and she must have been quite tired because she did something she never usually does, and she actually sat. She sat down on the floor of the ferry. She looked very unimpressed with the whole thing, really. Ferry was very good going up and down the steep steps to and from the car deck. Finally, we arrived back at SCONSER and got ready to drive back off the ferry again and back to the campsite, where Ferry was glad to have a nice lay down and a sleep. We had a really lovely day on Raasay. We're pleased we went. It was a nice day out and very, very remote, which we love. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Look out for Ferry's next video, part 5. Which is where I go wild swimming at Glen Brittle. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't yet subscribed and turn on your notifications, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.